Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of The Doctor. Today I'm going to take you down to a place where you can have yourself a time, friendly faces everywhere and humble folks without the meatiest of temptation. I'm going to take you to a place where you can leave your woes behind, and there's ample parking day or night and people shouting howdy neighbor. And I'm taking you to a place to see if you can unwind. So come on down to South Park and meet some friends of mine. I take you to the wonderful world of South Park, written by Matt Parker and Trey Stone. This article that I have written was edited by the lovely Crimson Miss Rose, and I do appreciate her efforts. So shall we begin? South Park, more than just smut. "Oh my God, they killed Kenny! You bastards!" is a phrase that has become synonymous with South Park, a television show that was created by Trey Parker and Matt Stone on August 13th, 1997. When South Park goes through your mind, most adults only complain about the smut shown or the raunchy style of humor. As an example of this, in Season 5, Episode 1, It Hits the Fan, in which the word shit is uttered 200 times. Throughout the episode, it became aware that curse words actually were words that had been cursed. But as the episode drew to a close, Kyle and Stan delivered a speech on the constant use of curse words in day-to-day life. You see, we've learned something today. Swearing can be fun, but doing it all the time causes a lot of problems. The Knights of Standards and Practices were created to make sure that bad words were kept at a minimum. Curse words. They're called that because they are a curse. We have to go back to only using curse words in rare, extreme circumstances. And besides, too much use of a dirty word takes away from its impact. We believe in free speech and all, but keeping a few words taboo just adds to the fun of English. Another episode of South Park that touches on a subject that has affected many is in Season 12, Episode 9, Breast Cancer Show Ever. I'd quickly like to deviate from the subject of South Park and touch quickly on how breast cancer has not only affected my life, but my family's life as well. When I was 13 or 14, my grandmother on my mother's side was diagnosed with breast cancer. When my family and I learned of the news, we were devastated as we knew there is no definite cure for breast cancer. As time went on, my grandmother was feeling better and had beaten cancer. After that, life was good, but in 2014, our family was dealt another blow. My mother, who has been diagnosed with cancer years before, had succumbed to her disease. And throughout the episode, we learned that during Wendy Testerberger's presentation on breast cancer awareness, she is constantly mocked by Eric Cartman. After class, while Cartman is still mocking Wendy about her efforts to support breast cancer, she has had enough and announces that she is going to fight Eric after school. As the school day progresses, more and more students learn of the fight, and including one Butterscotch says to Cartman, "You'll be a reject to his peers if he gets beaten up by a girl." As Cartman learns of this, he is now frightened and reluctant due to risking alienation from his peers. After trying to negotiate and apologizing and bribe Wendy, she is only angered and disgusted. Cartman tries to convince Stan Marsh, Wendy's boyfriend, to talk Wendy out of it, but Stan does not believe he can do anything to stop her. Next, he tries to gain attention by defecating on his teacher, Mr. Garrison's desk. As a last resort, Cartman tries to play the victim by having his mother convince Wendy's parents to forbid her from finding him and pretending to be tormented and bullied by her at school. And she reluctantly gives in, much to Wendy's shock. Instead of letting up, Cartman takes advantage of her by continuing to taunt and assault her. Knowing that she can no longer fight back lest her parents find out, the next day when Cartman gives a mock presentation on breast cancer in class to rub it in her face in his victory, she nearly fights him but is called to Principal Victoria's office. Much to Wendy's surprise, Principal Victoria commends Wendy for all the things she has done to spread awareness of breast cancer, and she explains that she is a breast cancer survivor herself. She tells Wendy that cancer does not play by the rules, adding that it is a fat little lump that needs to be destroyed, and you refuse to let that fat little lump make you feel powerless, realizing that Cartman will never stop of his own violation, and that she has Principal Victoria's support. Wendy decides to fight him. Wendy meets Cartman on the playground for the fight, and although Cartman briefly gains the upper hand, Wendy soon emerges victorious with only a few bruises, while leaving Cartman bruised, bloody, and having knocked many of his teeth out. As I watched the episode, I was impressed and amazed in a way. The Principal Victoria's speech was not only in reference to fighting cancer, but a subtle nod to Eric Cartman being a sort of cancer on everyone's life by being a psychopathic and sarcastic person. Season 6, Episode 9, Free Hat, brings up the issue of how movie producers like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas keep changing their movies by adding unnecessarily special effects. Recent episodes have been aimed at Trump and Star Wars: The Force Awakens, commenting on people don't like change, but when ignoring change, things become worse. Most will argue that South Park is nothing more than raunchy humor created by two intolerant morons that love to push the envelope and offend everything and everybody. But they are sadly misinformed. Yes, South Park mocks every religion and has even targeted minorities, but haven't you ever laughed at a dirty or racist joke? Don't look at South Park and say that the show is only dirty humor or that this show is intolerant of minorities. Instead, say South Park brings to light current, sometimes conversational events. Sure, the episodes of South Park used adult humor, but it teaches a lesson in the end by bringing light to issues that are often ignored. In conclusion, South Park is not only a show that shouldn't have been taken at face value, and should instead be analyzed for its meaning and message. I would like to end on a speech from a TV show called Duckman. Season 1, Episode 13, The Joking Chicken, or Joking the Chicken. I know you came here to see Iggy Cat-a-la-Pla, because you think he's funny, because you like his style, because you just plain like him, right? But you just think you do, because you are manipulated into thinking you do by him, King Chicken. He did it the same way they manipulate us into buying toothpaste, car wax, and even politicians, all pre-packaged in the least offensive, most appealing alternative. But it's precisely when humor is offensive that we need it the most. Comedy should provoke. It should blast through prejudices, challenge preconceptions. Comedy should always leave you different than when it found you. Sure, humor can hurt, even alienate, but the risk is better than the alternative. A steady diet of innocuous, childproof, flavorless mush. Demand to be challenged, to be offended, to be treated like thinking, reasonable adults. And raise your children to be the same. Don't let a comedian, a network, a congressional committee, or an evil genius take away the freedom to laugh at whatever you want. I hope those words stick with you. I hope you take meaning in the solace of what I have said. I hope after watching this video today, you think more lightly. You laugh at a joke your friend told you. You look at South Park in a more meaningful light. I believe shows like South Park ought to do this country a great justice. It teaches real meaning and real reason, not some ridiculous tripe that's disowned, flavorless mush. As I'll say it again, demand to be challenged, demand to be offended, to be treated like reasonable, thinking adults. I wish you all a wonderful evening and a safe trip. This has been the Doctor.